Hey everybody, it's Jack here, TalkNorwichCity. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for the support in recent weeks. I really do appreciate it. Back today for a Sunday reflection, bright and early on Sunday morning. Excuse the hair, fresh out of bed, but I wanted to talk about the game yesterday while it's still fresh on my mind. I like these Sunday reflection videos because I think on the watch-alongs we can be very reactive. We've just seen it, we're very emotional. We've let the dust settle a little bit on this one, and there's a lot to dissect considering it was a 0-0 draw. Where shall we start? There's a lot to talk about. Let's start with the fact we failed to register a shot on target again. 2 games in a row where we haven't registered a shot on target. Only twice in the last 15 years have we failed to register a shot on target at Carrow Road in a league fixture, which is a fascinating stat. And one that is a slight worry. I should have mentioned, thanks to NCFC numbers, that's in the second tier of English football. I'm sure there's been loads of times in the Premier League where we haven't had a shot on target. But the Barnsley game the week before, I think you can take that with a slight pinch of salt. We created chances in that game, and they happened to fall to players who aren't the most prolific. Let's say Buendia being one of them. He had a couple of really good opportunities in that game. Yesterday was slightly different. We created a couple early doors. Mario Vrancic had that wonderful opportunity early on where he just ran through the defence and no one came to him until the last minute, and he was closed down from the right hand side, so he could only really shoot left. There wasn't much space. He dragged it wide on his weaker foot. I think we all know Mario Vrancic's right foot isn't his strongest part of his game. So that was unfortunate. But after that, we didn't really create too much. Not a clear-cut opportunity anyway. We were tapping it about. And I think Middlesbrough played slightly different to what I was expecting. They've obviously signed Yannick Bolasie. So that's a good option for them on the counter. They've got Chuba Akpom, who came on late on, who was slightly more of a focal point. I thought Johnny Howson was excellent in the middle of the park for them and ran the show for them, really. So, was it a worry? Yeah, of course. It wasn't the ideal performance, and there are certainly things to work on. But I don't think it was as bad as some people were making out. First of all, Middlesbrough are not a bad side, and I was confused with the kind of narrative around Middlesbrough going into this game. Mainly because I think people take recent form into consideration way too much. And I know that Middlesbrough, they'd been pumped, hadn't they, by Rotherham 3-0 the game before. But Rotherham are fighting for their lives, and they're equally not a bad side. The bookies had us as 5-6 on to win yesterday. You look at Tuesday night's game against Millwall, we're 11-10. So the bookies had us as more likely to win the Middlesbrough game than the Millwall game. I think recent form is taken way too much into consideration, and I think home advantage is taken way too much into consideration. It's basically non-existent at the moment with no fans. I completely agree with what a lot of people were saying on the watch-along yesterday. If there were fans in Carrow Road yesterday, we would have won that game 1-0. We would have got us over the line in some way, shape or form, but I just think the intensity, I don't think the quality's necessarily been lacking without fans. I think the intensity has dropped off slightly. You get to 70 minutes or so, and there's a real kind of drop off in intensity. I think it's as simple as that. So I don't think we should be getting too caught up in it. Emi Buendia is the other talking point. That's his 3rd red card in under 6 months. Here's another stat from NCFC numbers. Only 8 players since 1985 have picked up 3 or more red cards in their Norwich City career. Emi Buendia has been sent off 3 times in 6 months. He's had 4 red cards in his time at Norwich City. That's a red card every 26 games, which is not good, and it's certainly the least amount of games per red card of any Norwich City player in the last 30 years or so. So it's a clear worry for Daniel Farke, and I think from my standpoint you could see it coming from that first booking. He was clearly wound up. Neil Warnock said in his interview after the game that they could feel that Emi Buendia was going to be sent off, and there was obviously, tactics around Middlesbrough to try and get Emi Buendia wound up. And, I think people are annoyed about that. But if we were going up against a player that clearly has a temperament issue and has been sent off 3 times in the last 6 months, I would be asking my players to get in his ear, put in some challenges, some 50-50s to get him slightly rattled, and hope that the referee buys into it. And to be honest, I can't argue with either of them yellows. I think originally I thought that second tackle was a bit of a soft one, but it was a stupid challenge on the halfway line, nowhere near the ball. Sometimes they're given, sometimes they're not. But when you're on a booking, don't give the referee a decision to make. I think it's as simple as that. Just stay on your feet. There's nothing. There was no danger from that passage of play. On the flip side, that's the joy of Emi Buendia. Daniel Farke gets his attacking players to do more defensive work than probably any other team in the division, which means when you've got attacking players making tackles on a regular basis, there are going to be the odd mistake. Now, you could say, well, why is Todd Cantwell, why is Timu Pukki, why is Onel Hernandez not getting sent off 3 times in 6 months? I would agree with you. It's just something I think we have to get used to with Emi Buendia. He's still very young. I think with time, them kind of tackles on the halfway line, he probably won't be making in 2-3 years, and it's an experience thing. But Daniel Farke will be fuming with that, because it now means he misses 2 games, not the 1. Obviously, you usually miss 1 game if it's a 2 booking offence. He's already been sent off this season, which means the next suspension, which is now, he misses 2 games. Millwall on Tuesday, and the crunch game on Friday night against Swansea, first versus second in the Championship table. And missing Emi Buendia for that will be absolutely massive. Now, who comes in? I don't know. Maybe it's Hernandez, maybe it's Hernandez down the right. I think that would be my option. I feel as if Farke might opt for Poeta. I'm still not completely sold on Poeta. I think there's undoubted talent in there somewhere, but the finishing is appalling, to be frank. So wasteful in front of goal, and we can't be having that in games where we probably won't be creating too many chances. Millwall, defensively relatively sound, not much going forward. Swansea, pretty decent at both ends, best defensive record in the league by a stretch. And with the IU starting to score goals, Conor Hourihan's come in, they're starting to score more goals, so that's a really tricky one. On the whole, though, I think pulling it all together, let's not get too caught up about this. Honestly, Middlesbrough are a better side than people were making out. They've got clear talent there. They've got a manager who is awkward in the Championship, and they've got a playoff hunt of their own. And it really wasn't a terrible performance. I think Middlesbrough will be kicking themselves that they didn't win a game that they were in against 10 men for half an hour. So I think they'll have their own frustrations. I think the big one for Norwich City is missing Kenny McLean. I think we seriously underestimate that man. We were so good and so dominant in the games where we had Oliver Skipp next to Kenny McLean. I think as soon as Kenny McLean comes back in the side, and hopefully it's Tuesday, Daniel Farke said he was asymptomatic and fit for yesterday's game, but he was left out because of COVID protocols, which I completely understand. Hopefully that isolation period will be done come Tuesday, and he'll be back in the side and raring to go. I genuinely think we'll see an uplift in performance levels when that man's back in the team. So a 0-0 draw. I think the important thing in the Championship is to keep momentum going. Just don't lose football matches. And I think the one positive from yesterday is that we put in like a 4 out of 10 performance, still kept the clean sheet, and still got a point. That's not a bad thing. And I think we'll look back on that game come the end of the season when hopefully we're promoted and go, that was a really crucial point. Bad teams lose games like yesterday, and we're far from a bad team. Another clean sheet. There was another lovely stat from NCFC Numbers. Boris Johnson has announced 2 UK lockdowns since the last time Tim Krul let in a league goal for Norwich City. Absolutely loved that. That's marvellous, isn't it? 0-0. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. We've got 2 watch-alongs next week. Millwall on Tuesday, Swansea late Friday night. It's an 8:15 kickoff, so don't miss out on that one. Millwall, I think, is a 6 o'clock kickoff. So a couple to remember. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you all again very soon. Bye-bye.